Good evening, everyone. How are you? Hope you're all well out there. What is it? Wednesday, the 22nd of April. 3 days till ANZAC Day. Got a special guest on tonight, everyone. And if you're unaware, the person you see on screen at the moment, his name is Johnny Smith, and known as Herby. You're probably wondering, why has he got Herby up on the screen? That was his nickname. He'll probably tell us about how he got his nickname in the army. But yeah, myself and John's my eldest cousin, everyone. And Johnny's mum and my dad were brother and sister. And we'll talk more about that soon. Johnny, welcome on, mate, and thanks for coming on tonight.
Thanks, Paul. Welcome, and nice to hear from you again.
Yeah, good stuff, mate. I caught up, myself and Ken caught up with Johnny December last year. When I came down to Brisbane, me and Ken drove out and had a cup of tea with Johnny, and it was good, mate. It was good to catch up for a chat. We don't see each other much, but yeah, no, it's good. And for those who are unsure, I actually did this interview a couple of years ago now, John, but it was on my old channel and it's been deleted and I lost it, mate. And I wanted to do this chat with you again because I think it's something that people need to hear. It's a wonderful story from someone who was actually there, and for those people, and we got a lot of civilians in tonight, John, that are probably interested in hearing the story. It's always good to hear from someone who was actually there at the battle, and we're going to talk about one of the most famous battles the Australian Army's been involved in probably since World War I and World War II, and that was the Battle of Long Tan, everyone. And we'll talk in depth about that throughout the show tonight. So anyway, John, thanks for joining us, as I said, mate. And one thing I want to start off with, everyone, is I remember, John, I remember you vaguely as cousins. We didn't spend a lot of time together as cousins because I didn't live in Brisbane, mate. But I certainly remember your dad, Uncle Freddie, and
Yep.
Uncle Freddie was just a wonderful human being, mate, and has done so much for this country. And I remember a day Uncle Freddie came up to Herby Bay when Dad was a policeman there, and they used to love having a 4X together. Your dad and my dad, it was wonderful. I didn't mind a frothy 1 or 3, but mate, tell us a bit about Uncle Freddie, because some of the things he did during World War II, mate, just incredible stuff.
Yeah, sure, Paul. Not a problem. My dad was a bushie. He was actually born in Millmerran. His parents, Tom and Flory, owned a sheep property, and he was brought up and raised in Millmerran. And then, of course, when the war commenced and that, Dad obviously got itchy feet and went and joined up. The only problem was that Dad was born in 1924, and obviously worked that out, and it was about 1940 that he enlisted. He wasn't even 17 years of age, but he put his age up. And in fact, if you have a look at his file with the National Archives, it actually states his birthday is the 24th of August, 1918. And obviously, I don't know to this day who signed the approval. I can't read the signature even. Yeah, but wow. But Dad, he joined up and did his training, and he was posted to 2nd 12th Battalion. And he actually joined the battalion at Tobruk. And he was actually in the trenches at Tobruk. And when on his 17th birthday, which was something, if you really look back and think of your own life, what you were doing at 17, yeah. I'm sure that none of us were sitting in a trench fighting the mighty Rommel army. I won't say the German army, because Rommel was a man in charge, and he was the one that was leading them. Dad survived that, and he came back, and he was actually posted, I think it was the 11th Training Battalion at Bogabilla. And when he was posted there, the RSM was a warrant officer class 1, Galbraith Philip Rogers, who at that stage, he was known as Handlebars. He had a wax moustache and was a very staunch person. He originally served in World War One in the 5th Light Horse and served on the Western Front. And my dad was there as an acting corporal instructor. And I suppose you could say at the time he had the hide to court the RSM's daughter, who happened to be my mother. So they got married.
Auntie Fissel, I used to call Auntie Phyllis.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. And, ask the RSM if you can take his daughter out. That's braver than facing the Germans.
Certainly is. But anyway, he came back, but then after that, he got posted back to 2nd 12th Battalion and was sent to New Guinea. And he was actually in the Battle of Shaggy Ridge. And on the 21st of January 1944, which was the first day of the contact that they had there, he was actually shot in the right arm by a Japanese mountain gun. He wasn't happy to be shot by a pistol or a rifle. It had to be a artillery piece. And that actually shattered. He had compound fractures, etc. So, cut a long story short, he was sent home, did his recuperation, and was discharged out of the army. But because of the fact that he was a bushie and left school when he was 13, only had the scholarship behind him, had no training or trade behind him. So the army trained him up as a carpenter.
Yeah,
which he did for the rest of his life, and ended up as a general foreman with Fred Upton Contractors, and he was involved in, I think they did the Cat and Fiddle Shopping Centre in Townsville, worked on the Herby Bay Hospital, worked on the Redcliffe Hospital, the Suncorp building, or the SGIO building as it was known, plus also the National Bank, which was in the valley, just to name a few.
Wow.
In 1973, he was made TPI and retired and went on. He actually became the Queensland State President of the Ratchettabrook Bowls Association, which he held for many years. And that basically, I suppose, is basically my dad's story. And I suppose where I got the urge to serve as well.
Yeah. Mate, the Ratchettabrook, the Germans gave them the name Rats because they were living underground, thinking it was going to be an insult to the Australian soldiers, but they actually took it on as a badge of honour, mate, and turned it into the Ratchettabrook. And if everyone watches on ANZAC Day this year, just about every decent-sized city will have a big banner marching, and it'll be in memory of the Ratchettabrook. Probably not too many of them left now, mate.
No, not too many. In fact, just a little bit on the 2nd 12th Battalion, which a battalion that Dad was in, they were actually made up of men from Queensland and Tasmania. And they did their training individually in Tasmania and Queensland, and then once this was for the second lot when they were coming to New Guinea, and after they did their initial training, they were then sent up to the Atherton Tablelands, where they did all their jungle training prior to going to New Guinea.
Yep, there's a lot of places up on the Atherton Tablelands, only an hour's drive from me, John, where there's still plaques and that, and go, this is where the 2nd 12th Battalion were doing their training before they went up to New Guinea, and that there's a lot of those training places up around the Atherton Tablelands now, and they've all got plaques and memorials and that for that.
Yep. A lot of that's I think it's around the Tinaroo Dam.
Yeah.
Is where they were. I've been up there and had a look around, and I actually found the headquarters of the 2nd 12th Battalion when I was up there.
Well, that's my next job, mate. When I go up the Tablelands, me and Roz go up there quite a bit, is to actually find that, because we love going up to Yungaburra and up around Tinaroo, and I'll actually try and find it and put some photos up. Now, Dad being in the army, mate, was that what inspired you to join up, John?
I think so. Him and also the fact that our grandfather, Galbraith Philip Rogers, being in both the First World War and Second World War, plus being in the Light Horse, then being an RSM training, married to the daughter of that great man. I suppose it was a natural that someone from the family had to join the forces to keep the record going.
Yeah, well, the Rogers boys, me and Ken and my son Phil, we all went on to join up too, mate. And I think Granddad, or mate as we all called him, it was his name in the family. I think he inspired us all to join up, mate. And we're very, very proud of what he did, especially in World War One.
Yeah, he did have the nickname during his army days, especially World War One, of Handlebars, because of his wax moustache, which he still had right up, and I think until the day he died.
Yeah, one of my bosses, a Vietnam veteran as well, Lofty Evans from Signals Corps. Lofty had a massive big moustache. He was a staff sergeant when I first got the 72 EW squadron, and Lofty. He just looked like a typical, he wasn't an RSM, but he looked like one. He had the big waxed moustache and all that, like a lot of them did back in those days, mate.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Certainly did.
So when did you actually join the army, John? Did you join to go to Vietnam, or did you join before Vietnam really started?
I joined before Vietnam. I didn't know anything about it. In fact, just to digress slightly, I actually tried to join the Navy first up. But I got knocked back because I was overweight. I think you can see from the photo there, I'm still overweight. But so I couldn't get into the Navy, so I thought, well, I'll give the Army a crack. And I did. I'd actually had 2 years CMF with Papa Battery of Fifield Regiment of Kelvin Grove prior to me joining the regular Army. And in fact, even when I went and did my medical and that, the guy that was doing it, he said, "Look," he said, "you're a little bit overweight there." He said, "How do you think you can? Do you think you can stand up to the job? And what have you done?" And I explained that I'd actually had 2 years CMF, as I said, and during the 2 years, and you'd understand this, I was a line seek. Yeah. And but in those days it wasn't the Don
10 it was called.
10. It was the Don 3, which was about 20 times thicker than the Don 10, right? Yeah. And so I had to join. Well, I was one of the signals team that was doing that with the CMF. And when I said that I'd done that, they said, "Well, okay, we'll give you a go and see how it goes." And I joined up on the 7th of February 1963. In those days, there was nothing going on. The World War II had finished. The occupation of Japan had finished. Korea had finished. And in fact, in 1960, they stopped the national service, which they had brought in for Korea, and that so that had stopped as well. So there was nothing at all going on when I joined. But that's February 63. In May 64, we were on pay parade, and TSM, Joe Socksmith, called out who would like to be posted overseas. And of course, I put my hand up. He took all the names. And that paper, that was about 11 o'clock. We got paid, went to lunch, and then went on parade after lunch. And Joe said, "Okay," he said, "I'm calling out some names. I want you to pull out on the left-hand side of the parade." My name was one of them. Called us out once he finished. He said, "Right," he said, "over to the RAP." I said, "Well, what's going on?" He said, "Oh, you're going overseas." I said, "Well, where are we going?" "Oh, I can't tell you that. Just go over and have your medical." So that was on the Thursday. By the Friday afternoon, we'd had our medical, dental, jabs, everything else, and was on 7 days PM leave. Still not knowing who we were going with. But I think most of us thinking at the time that we were going to join the field battery at Tarinda. But as it turned out, we joined the Air Defence Battery that was still at Holsworthy, which was 111 light anti-aircraft battery. So on the 24th of May, we sailed out of Sydney on the HMA of Sydney, together with our 40mm Bofors, and sailed off to Butterworth in Malaysia. And just digressing slightly here, but because we had the 40mm Bofors, which is the same as the Bofors that the HMA of Sydney had on the ship, we were made part of the ship's defence. So therefore, every time that we got action stations, we used to have to run up to the guns and man them. And the guns was up on the flight deck. And of course, there was a motto that every time after we got action stations, the next one we get would be nuclear stations, which was right down the bottom of the ship. So we'd have to run down the ship again. So we were quite fit. But we went over to Malaya in the May. At that stage, I was engaged. We went over there originally, it was 6 months. They extended it, but they gave the marriages and those who were engaged the opportunity to come home if we so desired. And because I had wedding plans, I said, yes, okay, I'll come home, which I did. That was in December of 64. And then I got posted to, I actually got posted to 102 battery at Holsworthy. But Captain Ball, my troop commander, who was coming back to Australia, I had a word to him, and he arranged for me for that posting to be cancelled, and I was actually posted to 105 battery at Waco because I come from Brisbane, and my fiance was in Brisbane at that time, because that was in January of 65, and September of 65. 14th of September 1965, we were on board the HMA of Sydney again, once again with our guns, but this time sailing off to a place called Vietnam to join the 1 Battalion group at Benoit.
Yeah, and you're working with the Americans there, mate, in support of the Americans when you first got to Vietnam?
Yeah, when we got there, we joined the 1 Battalion group, which was posted to Benoit, and we were part of the 173rd Airborne Brigade, which was based on the Benoit airstrip. So we in fact we spent 9 months with them, clearing the War Zone D and the Iron Triangle, which were two very hot VC areas prior to us being deployed over there. When we arrived there with 173rd, and the fact, I mean, the 1 Battalion group, the 1 Battalion plus a small supporting element had actually come over in the May of 65. We went over in the September of 65 to boost it up to a complete group. And as I say, we spent 9 months with them. Working with them, going out on operations with them, and then that took us through to about the May of 66, which was when we got word that they were going to increase us up to a task force size. And in fact, the 173rd, along with us and the 1 Battalion group, plus at that stage, Charlie Company of 5 RAR, which was the advance company for that battalion, because they were replacing one who was going home in the May. We were then deployed down to clear the task force area, which was Operation Hardyhood. So we were one of the first ones into the task force area.
Which was Newey Dat, mate.
That was Newey Dat, yeah. And in fact, when we first moved there, most of it was still rubber trees and banana plantations. And in fact, 105 battery lines, we were on the perimeter, and we were actually deployed into a banana plantation. We cleared the banana trees, but we had heaps of bananas to eat for the remaining few months that we were there before coming home.
Yeah. Wowee. Hey, mate, before we get into the guts of it now, we'll get into the guts of the actual Battle of Long Tan. And as now you're at Newey Dat, there's like a brigade, a whole brigade or a task force.
A task force, yeah.
The SAS boys, I believe, were up on Newey Dat Hill doing their own thing.
Yeah, but it actually got the name Sass Hill because but Newey Dat was the feature within the task force area, and because the Sass was there, it got the nickname Sass Hill.
Yeah, well, there you go. Yeah.
Yep, no go.
Righto, mate. So what we might do, everyone, is just so John's going to start talking about the actual battle soon, everyone. So what I want to do, I've got a couple of clips here, and John's seen the movie as well. It's a movie called Danger Close. And I just want to, basically what happened is they went out, John will explain it in more depth, but when they get out, they get contacted, Delta Company 6 RAR, and basically they had to call the artillery in because they were in deep shit. And it got to the stage, and you'll probably confirm this, where it comes from Danger Close. Apparently they were calling artillery in on their own position because they were in such trouble. So the first clip here, and John will talk more about this, you'll see it's a Kiwi battery that is the first ones to open fire, and John will explain more about the Kiwi battery and that. So what I'm going to do, Bradley, I can't see you. Your camera's off, mate. You're in the thing. Righto, everyone. I'm just going to try and remember how to do this. Share the screen, and let's see if we can get this going. This one here. Share the screen. Hopefully you can see that, Johnny.
Yep.
Righto, here we go, everyone. This is the first clip. They're only very short. And this is when Delta Company 6 RAR first get contacted. First thing I'm going to say is your 2 forward scouts wouldn't be standing up like stale bottles of piss in the middle of the open like that. But anyway, it's only a movie. But remembering we did lose 18 soldiers in this incident, everyone.
Contact front! Contact front! Everyone down! Four. This is 4-2. Heavy contact. Fire mission battery. Stand by for coordinates. Fire mission battery. Number 1 low. Bearing 1720. Range 4750. Bearing 1720. Range 4750. Bearing 1720. Set. 4750. Hey.
All right, that's the first one. I'll stop sharing that one.
Yeah, That is very much like it was. But I think that before we actually talk about this, most probably need to talk about the day before.
Yeah,
Because
I've got another clip yet, Johnny.
Okay, go for it.
Got you, Mary. I can see I've got some special guests down in the green room. We're nearly there, and just got another short clip. Everyone, that was the initial contact when that would have been the initial one. And John's going to tell us in depth about what he heard come over the radio when you see those Kiwis there having a feed and then they spring into action. John's going to tell us what he was doing at that very, very moment. But the other one is during the battle, they were getting overrun, everyone, and they actually had to call artillery in on themselves. And you'll see this clip here. They give a bit of paper, and you can see the Kiwi bloke reads it, and he thinks they're calling it in on themselves. So we'll just do the next one here. Share the screen. This is only a short one again, everyone. See that one, Johnny?
Yep.
One, no! 1850, 1850, 1850, 1850, come on! Oh yeah!
There you go, everyone. That's the that was them calling the artillery in. And John, that'll bring back some memories, mate. So for all those wondering, Johnny was on the gun line that day, and you're going to tell us about exactly what gun you were on. And I think before we start the battle, John, the reason Delta Company was out there in the first place on active patrolling is because a lot of stuff was going on the day and the night leading into the Battle of Long Tan, mate.
Yeah, that's correct. I was actually in 105 battery, and I was on Echo gun. And as I said, we were deployed on the perimeter, and we were in support of 5 RAR. 103 battery was in general support, and the Kiwi battery, which is 161 Royal New Zealand Field battery, they were in direct support of 6 RAR. The 5 RAR was actually out patrolling the day before Long Tan, and obviously where we were positioned on the perimeter, we were slightly out of range of them, so they moved our battery down onto the side of Luscombe Field, so as we could become back in range of 5 RAR, and in fact back to where the optimum range would be, so as we could support them. So we were down on the side of the airfield, obviously at that stage with no protection whatsoever, because we were on the side of the airfield. We weren't allowed to dig in. We didn't have any barbed wire or anything because we were actually inside the task force area. And we were firing in support of 5, and then we stayed there overnight. And around about 2:45 on the morning of the 18th, I was actually on picket with one other guy. I think he was Jason Neville from Charlie Gun, and we saw these rounds landing on the perimeter. At the time, we thought that it was actually DFs, which is defensive fire, being fired from our own people. It didn't take us long to realise that, in fact, it wasn't defensive fire. It was enemy fire, and they were walking them in across the task force area. We were lucky where we were because of the fact that we weren't in our normal position. We didn't have any rounds land anywhere near us, but we were firing back as counter battery, firing against the incoming rounds. That night we silenced the guns, and the next morning they went out and did some search of the area, and they actually accredited the artillery with 275 body count killed, which was the first time that we know of that the artillery had actually been given credit for a body count. And the reason for that obviously was because we were the ones that were firing, and there was no, there were the infantry mortars were firing, but there was no ground troops in support of that. But when they were walking the rounds in, they walked it in over the task force area, up over Sass Hill, and they actually ended up landing in and around 103 battery, which, as I said, was our sister battery, who had only been in country a couple of months. And unfortunately, well, they went through the firing. It stopped. They then did a search of the area, and they found a guy by the name of Gunner Philip Norris, who wasn't on the gun. They went and had a look for him, and they found him in his hoochie. And when they tried to rouse him, they couldn't, and they discovered that he had been wounded, which obviously would have been some shrapnel, and he had a wound to the head, which they discovered that he was leaking brain fluid from that wound. They obviously medevaced him out, and the 103 battery got word back that the gunner Philip Norris had passed on. We can continue with that story shortly. I'll get back to the Battle of Long Tan. But because of...
If you want, this is probably a good time for me to bring our special guest in, and it's in relation to Phil Norris, mate. And G'day, Mary.
Hi.
Mary,
Hi, Mary. How are
I think
you?
everyone knows Mary. This is Phil Norris's daughter, John.
G'day, love. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
Good. It's good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too.
Oh, wow. I'm getting emotional.
Yeah, so am I. Don't worry.
You're not the only one.
Oh, wow. Oh, I knew I would, eh?
Absolute pleasure to meet you.
Me too, love. Me too.
Johnny just said they heard about Phil Norris from 103 Field Battery, and they thought he passed away, Mary.
Yeah, and he was presumed dead for the better part of then. Oh gosh, Brad, help me here. I can't remember. The better part of probably 20, 30 years.
I think it was longer, love. I think it was, if I remember correctly, I think it was around about 2010 that they found him.
No, I found him earlier than that because they found me in 2007.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I got the story secondhand type of thing, but I did look it up. But apparently what the situation was a gentleman by the name of Paddy Durnford.
Yeah, Paddy.
Yep. Paddy was in the same battery as Philip, and apparently after sometime later, the battery went down to Canberra on a reunion.
Yeah,
and
actually,
Paddy
I think it was the 40th.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Paddy was looking through the honour boards and that down at the War Memorial, and Philip's name wasn't there.
Correct.
And he made inquiries as to why it wasn't there, and initially he got fobbed off and no one would be able to tell him. But eventually he did, through continual looking and searching, he did eventually find out that the reason why Philip's name wasn't on the wall was because he was in fact still alive.
Indeed.
But of course he had told your mum, and obviously he told you, that Philip had passed away and was killed on that night.
Yeah. Yeah,
What a
Mum.
small world.
Yeah, it's crazy what a small world it is. Yeah, I knew that Mum and Philip had married because they had a very quick wedding after he was conscripted. But I had no idea that he was indeed who he was until I got the letter from the Salvation Army looking for me.
Yeah.
And me being the
Yeah.
curious cat that I am, I didn't want to tick a box and mail it back. I called the phone number and
Oh,
said,
right.
I'm that person who is looking for me. And I'll never forget it. The guy said to me, your father, and I felt really bad because I said, oh, mate, I'm so sorry. I said, my dad died in 2001.
Yeah.
And because that was the gentleman that raised me. And I
Yeah.
thought he was Dad. And
Wow.
yeah, and anyway, he said, no, as a matter of fact, it's your father and he's very much alive. Are you aware that your mother was married before? And I went, yeah. And he said, well, he's in fact your dad. And I just about passed out. I remember I rang Brad and said, can you sort of come home like now? Because yeah, I've got some serious stuff. We've got some serious stuff to talk about. It was just mind-blowing.
Right.
It really was.
Gee whiz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That must have been a spit out to say, oh, your dad wants to say you thought your dad had already passed away, but your real dad is a guy who was wounded in Vietnam who all his mates thought he was dead.
Yeah.
It's just a bizarre story, isn't it? And to think that of all people, it has to be your dad who we've known you and Brad for years through the camping scene and all that. And just the way this has all worked out has just been absolutely incredible. And when Johnny was talking about it, I said, I know his daughter, John, a good friend with her.
Crazy. And to think that John and I both know or knew Paddy. I mean, Paddy passed away not that long ago.
Yes.
No.
You know, it's
I
just,
think it was last year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Pat himself, I mean, we were both ones at the same time. We both served together. I think at one stage we were together at the School of Artillery. I was a gun instructor and Paddy was on the admin side down there. Plus, of course, we went to Townsville a few times and I met him with the museum up there with Caulfield.
Yeah, he was very proud of that museum.
Certainly was.
Hey, speaking of Phil Norris and Paddy Durnford, how about I just show a couple of quick photos? Mary, you're the star of this here. Hopefully everyone can see that. So, Johnny, that looks like probably 103 Field Battery on their parade before they went over to Vietnam. And that's actually Phil Norris, second from the left where my cursor is, everyone. That's Mary's dad.
Okay. Yeah, because I think the thing is, Mary most probably wouldn't have known because I'm sure that Mary would have been still, if she was born, she would have been a baby in arms.
Yeah,
because as you say, they married after you got conscripted just before going over. Yeah,
I was born in 69. A few years after, and how apparently it eventuated was Philip would sometimes go home on visitation weekends, and he went home one weekend and I was the result.
So that was after he was wounded and he was in rehabilitation, Mary, and he went home on weekends and that if he was well enough to do so, and
he was back then.
Wow. Just incredible.
Because I can remember back when I found out about him, I was obviously in a lot of shock, and I said, it's impossible. He was injured in 66 and I was born in 69. Like, do the math. But it's in his file, because I actually have his file with me, DVA. A bit's missing out of it. I think they kept a few things for themselves perhaps, or didn't want to release everything, but it's actually clearly stated in the file that he would go home back then occasionally on visitation with Mum, because they were a young married couple. She was 17 when they got married.
So Mary, you tell us about Paddy Durnford, who was the one who went trying to track down Phil Norris, his mate, and when he found out that he wasn't dead after all, why he wasn't on the memorial wall, he said, hey, where's our mate Phil Norris and that? So you ended up going over to Vietnam with Paddy Durnford.
Yeah, after Philip passed away in 2010, and as a thank you for the support that there was himself and two other gentlemen and Philip's carer, Sister Elizabeth Miles, who was just the most amazing lady. We wanted to just do something as a gesture of thanks. So we offered to, I went over and we offered to pay for the three fellas and Elizabeth to go over on a battlefield tour. And it was just amazing. Just to be able to walk in their footsteps per se.
Yeah. Talk us through that, mate. That's you with Mum and
so
we call him Phil, but I suppose did you refer to him as Dad, or you still refer to him as Phil? Or
I've always called him Philip or Phil, because it would get very confusing. The kids would get confused, and he knew who he was, and I knew who he was. So that's all that sort of mattered.
Is that at the 40th reunion, was it, or
that was for the Australian newspaper did a big story on the Vietnam vets for their 50th year, and so they had a big thing down in Canberra, and a lady by the name of Catherine McGregor, she did a story. And so the Australian newspaper came up and the photographer came up and we were interviewed and photos were taken. And that's one of the photos that was in the newspaper.
Yeah, wow. There you go.
Yeah.
And there's the family there, yourself and Brad and the three boys. And
the three boys.
Wearing their granddad's medals on the right-hand side. They've all got a set of medals for him.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Absolutely.
Really, really good. Great family, John, the Howe family, mate. You won't get a better family than that. There they are there. Tell you what, Mary, you're batting above your average. Have a look at Bradley there. He's a good-looking rooster. Have a look at him.
I thought you were going to say something like, Jesus, Mary, how many hairdos have you had?
Yeah, so there it is there. What a wonderful, geez, that's some good memories. And I remember we were down visiting you in Newcastle and Brad was telling me the story about Phil Norris and that, and remember Brad got emotional too. It's an emotional story and incredible. There you are there. Marky Lavelle will be bloody doing backflips at the moment. He's a Parramatta supporter. And you're a Filthy Eel supporter too, Mary.
Yeah, and ironically, I grew up an Eel supporter and had no idea that Philip was a mad Eel supporter.
Wow, there. So how long was that before Phil passed away?
That would probably be no more than 12 months.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no more than 12 months.
How often did you see him, Mary? Or how often did you go and see him?
If you've worked it out, it was always a couple of times every school holidays, naturally. And then we'd Father's Day, birthdays, Christmas. So on average, it ended up probably being once a month.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes more, but on average about once a month.
Fantastic. And that's the tour over in Vietnam with Paddy Durnford.
Yeah. So that's Paddy there in the stripy T-shirt.
Yeah. And he only passed. He ran the Fourfield Museum, Phil, yeah?
Yep.
Yeah.
Paddy did.
Yeah.
In actual fact, it's named the Paddy Durnford OAM Fourfield Regiment Museum.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, he only passed away last year. A mate of mine who ran the SIGS Museum, so let me know that he passed away. So, yeah, that tour must have been pretty special, Mary, the long time. I know some people that have done it, and they said it's just absolutely fantastic. And 60 Minutes did a really good story once where they took a couple of Delta Company 6RAR guys back and they met a couple of Viet Cong officers, their enemy. And that was a very, very good show. They were shaking hands and they were both talking about what it was like on their side, and the Viet Cong guys were talking about what it was like to fight against the Australians, and just absolutely incredible there. So, wowee.
I believe that the beef cheaters they were talking to were actually at the Battle of Long Tan. So they weren't just the enemy; they were actually there in the battle as well.
That's right. They were, Johnny. Yeah, I called you Phil before. Where I got Phil, I was thinking of Mary's dad. So John, they were actually in the battle there. So just incredible. It's funny, Mary, that they mortared the Newey Dat the night before, and Phil was injured, as you know, and taken away there. And it's just incredible that, you know, Johnny and all them just thought he was dead. They thought he didn't make it. And here we are, fast forward all these years, here you are, and just an incredible story, you know, to think that Phil Norris's daughter is part of the community. It's just it's too much of a small world, isn't it? I wanted to get you on tonight, Mary, because I wanted John to see you, and I thought it would have been special.
No, that's awesome. It's awesome. I'll tell you one funny story though. Alex, our eldest boy at school, they were studying the Battle of the Long Tan at school, and his teacher was up there saying about how many Aussie servicemen were killed. And Alex put his hand up and said to his teacher, "I'm sorry, Mrs. Goodwin, but your facts are wrong." Anyway, she turned around to him and she said, "Excuse me, Alex, and, you know, don't speak like that," and blah, 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 blah. And she said, "And by the way, what makes you say that? How do you know?" He said, "It's inaccurate. It's one too many." And she said, "And how do you know that?" She said, "Because that man, the other one that you're talking about, happens to be my grandfather, and he's not dead, he's alive." She was speechless. It was just gold. He was so proud to tell that story. And, it was really good.
So Philip, you lived with that injury you received that night on the night of the 17th, or early morning on the 18th.
Yeah.
The 17th. That he's lived with those injuries for the rest of his life, and it probably eventually took his life. Would that be fair? Or was there something non-related to that?
Yeah. No, he ended up ended up being heart failure, but he was very overweight because he had no short-term memory. He could remember everything prior to pre-66. Yeah. And he was it was really interesting, and it was also very heartbreaking. He was in hospital. It was not that long before he passed away, and he was a clock watcher. And I was sitting there and I looked at the time and I said, "Well, Phil, I'm going to make tracks and hit the road because it's 20 past 2. I round the time up, and he turned around and he said, 17 past. And I went, "Sorry, yes, 17 past 2. I'm going to make tracks." And then he looked at me and he said, "Where's Marianne?" That was my mum.
Yeah, yeah.
And I went, and I thought, "Oh gosh, this is going to be good." And I went, "She died, sweetie." And he went, And I said, "Do you know what day of the week it is?" And he went, "Nah." And I said, "It's a Wednesday." And he said something else, and then he turned around to me and he said, "What year is it?" And I thought, "Oh God, how am I going to answer this?" And I went, "It's 2010. And I will never, ever forget it. This eyebrow raised all the way up, and he looked at me and he went, "What happened to the rest of it?" Oh, it broke my heart. And I just looked at him and I didn't know what to say. And I just said, "Sweetie, I suppose time flies when you're having fun." And he accepted that, thank heavens. But just the way, it was a real shock to my system, because I thought, my God, he has lost all that time from 1966 to 2010. He's got nothing. He was institutionalized for all those years. And it's just, it's just wrong.
Yeah.
You know, it's heart-wrenching. It really is. I mean, he's not the only one.
I was just going to say that, Mary and Paul. I do believe that when they found Phil, he was a Concorde, I believe.
Yeah.
And they found another guy there who was a World War II digger.
Wow.
And they found him at Concorde at the same time as they found Phil.
Wow.
So, we say Vietnam, 66, World War II, which was back in the 1940s.
Yeah.
Yeah, so as you say, the unfortunate part about it is they're not odd incidents. There's
No.
more than one or two people involved.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that Philip was institutionalised at Callum Park, which is the old Rozelle Hospital, and they
Yeah.
had their own wing just for veterans. And like you
Yeah.
say, John, there were people there from World War II, Korea, the whole kit and caboodle. And they'd been in there for all those years. It's just mind blowing. You I don't know. You just don't realise how much of a life someone loses. Like if anything, they've paid more than the ultimate price, haven't they? Because they're still alive.
Yeah.
But their life is over.
Yeah.
Which is just so damn sad.
Bloody hell. Mary, did he remember the actual incident itself, or like when he got wounded that night?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. And I'll tell you what's freaky is the fact that he wasn't even meant to be in his bed that night. He was meant to, a guy swapped shifts with him. Some other gentleman asked him to swap spots. So Phil was meant to be doing whatever he did. But he was in his bed asleep, and ironically, he just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time and ended up with a shrapnel wound.
I think Brad said he swapped pickets with a mate, and his mate was out on picket when he was supposed to be, so he wouldn't have been his. And obviously, John, back in those days, you would have been sleeping on stretchers or something inside a canvas tent, mate. You slept in tents there.
I believe at that stage we were still in hutchies.
Oh, well, even worse, yeah.
Because what we used to do, we used to get two guys together and join them, so you end up with a much bigger area. And we had the old army stretchers, which later on, okay, we got the marquees and we went into them, and we got the American style stretchers, which was much bigger. But in the early days, we were still in the old issue ones that we got, and as I say, living in hutchies.
Oh, well, there you go, Mary. Absolutely no protection whatsoever. Wasn't even in a gun pit with overhead protection or anything on it. He was just inside his, which is why he
well, I mean, when they hit you, as I say, about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, everyone's asleep really except for your picket. And I mean, I was on picket at the time that started, and it took a few minutes to actually sort out what was happening. We originally thought that it was our own troops that were firing defensive fire around the perimeter.
Wow.
Any consolation, Johnny's battery cleaned 275 of them up for him.
No, not my battery, the regiment.
Oh, it was
there was three batteries there, 18 guns, plus the 3 American 155 MP SPs.
Yeah. Wow.
Good job.
Anyone else injured that night along with Phil, Johnny?
Not that I know. We didn't get we as I say, where we were, we didn't get anything at all. The closest to our normal position that we weren't in, they did land a couple of rounds on the roadway, but they didn't do that. But we were on this road there. We were on the right-hand side of it. RHQ and Headquarter Battery and 103 were on the other side of it, and it walked up through 103 there and RHQ, but didn't come near us. I do believe there were a couple of others, but I can't recall exactly. Just as I say, the one with Philip, because he was an artillery, he was one of us. We got to know it because of the guys who were involved. So it's one that sticks in our mind because, I mean, long tan always sticks in the mind. The lead into it sticks in the mind. So everything involved with it sticks there. It's really great to meet Mary there. Shock of my life.
It's been special, Mary. Thanks for coming on tonight.
Thanks,
I
Buck.
asked Brad yesterday, I said, "Would you think Mary would like to come on?" I didn't know if you wanted to talk about it or not, but I'm glad you did. It was bloody special to have you on talking about your real dad, Phil Norris. And Johnny, you didn't actually know him in person. You were in different
No, I
batteries.
didn't. No,
Yeah.
I didn't know because we were in a different battery. We weren't even in the regiment before because the regiment came over in the May, June of 66. We went over there in September 65. We went from Wakehold in Queensland. One field regiment came from Holsworthy in New
Yeah.
South Wales. So
Yeah.
we knew of other people that were there, you know, Paddy Durnford, Billy Cross, and a few of the others. We heard their names around, but that was about it. There was another one that I've been in touch with, who I've got as a friend, is Red Redmond. I thought he may have been on. Yeah, he's 103 battery, very active on Facebook, and sticks up almighty for 103, which he should.
He does. He does.
Yeah, and in fact, the gun position officer of 103 battery was John Griggs, who was a lieutenant at that stage. I got posted to the School of Artillery in 1972. I did 4 years there, then went overseas, came back, promoted Road 2 and posted to Dev Wing. And John Griggs, who was the GPO 103 battery at Long Tan, was my SI in Development Wing.
Wow.
You know, so as you say, small world, just and especially the world of defence. It's you know, we're one big family, and you always come across someone somewhere.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Good stuff. Anyway, let's give Mary a thumbs up in the chat room, everyone. Hit the thumbs up. Mary, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks, Mark.
I knew it was going to be a special night, but having you on here when we hear the story about your dad being the one who was wounded that night, the night before the Battle of Long Tan, and then having his daughter come on is pretty special to me. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Buck. Pleasure to meet you, John.
Yeah, you too, Mary. Look after yourself, eh?
You too. You too.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Buck.
All right. Thank you. Bye now. Oh, that's good, John. I'm glad Mary got on, mate. I'm glad you got to meet Mary.
I could call you. I could call you a few names, you shit.
Yeah, I'm emotional there too, mate. It's a really, it's almost like, you know, what's that Australian story, and and all that type of stuff. It's almost down that sort of line, wasn't it? It is emotional, and anyway, and the fact that we're good friends with Brad and Mary and have been for a long time, and Brad tells me the story about this Phil Norris, and then you tell me a story when you're in Vietnam about this Phil Norris getting wounded, you know, and we put two and two together, and that's what you come up with. Anyway, we've established that there was a bit of shenanigans the night before the Battle of Long Tan, John. So we might continue on with the story there, mate, and talking about why Delta Company was sent out. It was because of what happened the night before, mate.
Yes, it was. Because of what happened the night before, they sent them out to obviously clear the area, make sure that everything was safe, and look to see if they could find anything. We just went on about our business. We moved back into our normal position, and just went into the day routine.
Yeah.
And about in fact, the actual time of the first contact, I think, was about 15:42 in the afternoon.
Talking about timings, Mary's talking about Phil with his timings. Here you are, 15:42 to the minute.
Well, as I say, certain things they stick in the mind, and you know, and that was the start of a 12-hour experience you'll never forget. Yeah. Because as I say, the contact was there. We didn't know the contact was at stage. But of course, next thing, fire mission battery. And we thought, hello, someone's in the shit. Started firing.
You were getting up at the time, weren't you? Didn't you say you were up at the boozer about to grab a couple of beers or something?
No, that was what I was leading into. 1542 was the first contact. They called in the artillery fire, and it was 161 battery, because they were direct support battery. While that was going, we were getting ready to knock off. We knocked off 4 o'clock. And at that stage, what we did, each gun, or on our gun anyway, echo gun, we knock off and go to the booth. So we had a roster going that each day one of the gun detachment would be rostered to go and get the beers for the rest of them. So to keep the crowd at the bar down. And it was my turn, so I went up and I got the 6 beers. The boys come in, we started to drink, and we fire mission regiment. So we all went out to the guns, and that would have been just after 4 o'clock. And we didn't finish firing until 3 o'clock the next morning. So as I say, it's a 12-hour period that is always in the mind and will always remain there. And I mean, through the firing, the boys obviously on the ground, they really, no one would want to be in their shoes. But no one wanted to be in our shoes on the guns either, because, as I say, we were firing. The typical thing in Asia, the tropical monsoon hit whilst we were firing. There was smoke and cordite everywhere. And because of the rain and the weather and that, the smoke couldn't get away. So, we were choking on our own fumes from the firing. We had ammunition bunkers on the gun positions, which were half buried and half above. When we first started, another one of the gun detachment, Merv Jansen, he was the one down in the ammo bay putting the ammunition up. He succumbed to smoke fumes and that, so you had to get him out. I then went down into the bunker and was throwing the rounds up myself. And of course, this was just prior to it getting dark. We lost all of our gun aiming points. Might be hard for different people to understand that, but an artillery person would know exactly what I'm referring to. So we had to do something, because you can't fire without an aiming point. Our bombardier Dinger Bell grabbed hold of a torch hand electric and hung it on a tree directly behind the gun pit. And to digress, when we were at Benoit, we had a tree behind our gun pit, and we jealously guarded that tree while we were up there. When we went down to Nui that, we ended up with a tree behind our gun pit there as well, so we guarded that also, which was a godsend, because it had taken a long time. We lost our aiming points, hung the torch on the tree, and went on firing. It's very important to remember that this urgent matter is to get a gun aiming point, and then we'll fire in danger close, which was quadrant laying. Everything had to be so exact. And I've got Major Harry Smith's after-action report, and not one casualty or death was caused by artillery fire to members of Delta Company. So the urgent matter that we did and the emergency matter worked out beautifully and kept us involved and kept us firing. The battle itself went from, I'd say, about 3:40, finished at around about 7 o'clock. The rest of the time, all the artillery was used firing on suspected form-up areas, escape routes, sightings, what have you. It's a night that you never forget. It's a night that you're glad you were there. And it was funny the next day, and remembering this was about the 18th, 19th of August. We were coming home on the 14th, we were coming home around about the 14th, 15th of September. So it was only about a month away, and our TSM Jesse James come round and said to me, "Oh, Gunner Smith, you haven't been on R&R yet. Would you like to go?" And I took one look at the mess around the gun position and said, "Yeah, when can I leave?" Unfortunately, it wasn't for about a week, so I still had to clean up.
Wow. How many rounds do you reckon Echo gun fired from 4 o'clock till 3 the next morning, mate?
I think it was around about 400 or 500 rounds. Remembering the rounds are 33 pound, right? And that was just a round itself, and then you got the car case on the end of that with charged bags. They came in boxes of 2. And obviously, because we were firing through the night, it got so busy that they actually had everyone in the battery out carrying ammunition. They brought the Ramey guys over from the LA or the regimental aid post to carry ammunition. And the guys 105 allocated to 105, they were over with our battery. The guys who were allocated to 103 battery were down with 103, and the Kiwis were with 161. One of the mates of mine on the same gun as me, Chris Sabulski, he had a brother, George Sabulski, who was in 102 workshops, and he'd actually come over to visit Chris that day and was still there when the firing started because we were having a beer, and then he was going to go back to the lines. But because that had started up, no one was allowed to move. So George ended up spending the night on the guns with us, which gave us an extra man carrying ammunition. But he ended up going back to his unit the next day, and he was actually charged, and I believe he was given 21 days field punishment for being AWOL from his unit. And
boys.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Mate, how many of you is on a 105? We don't have 105s anymore. How many were you, 3 or 5?
No, there was normally 7. You had the number 1 who was a sergeant, the number 7 who was a bombardier who was a 2IC, the number 2 which was one of the layers who would lay for elevation, the number 3 who was the other layer who would lay for line, and then you had 4, 5, and 6 who were the ammunition numbers.
Yeah.
Now, because we were in Vietnam, they allocated us extra people to the battery, not so much to the gun, but to the battery, to act as ammunition numbers because they, like the instance of Wrong Tan, you're busy, so and you've got to man the gun, so you need extra bodies. Plus, of course, we had the drivers there as well. So we most probably had 8 or 9 people on the gun, but then some of them could have been away sick, some of them could have been away on R&R, R&C. Yeah. Some would have been. We still had to man the pickets because obviously, if you're under attack, the most likely thing is that you're going to get ground troops coming through as well. And as I said earlier, we were on the perimeter. Yeah.
Yeah. You carried the SLR there, mate, or did you have the Owen guns back then?
No, we had the SLRs. The armour lights weren't in at that stage, or the M14, whichever way you want to call it. The drivers had Owen guns. The number 1s had Owen guns, but the diggers all had SLRs. Plus, we didn't have M60s. We had the old AR, which was the heavy barrel SLR machine gun.
Oh, right, yeah. Oh, that's good, mate. What distance were you firing at when you were actually lobbing rounds? What was the distance? Do you remember?
It was about 4,500 metres from us. But remember, we were on a perimeter, and this firing was on the opposite perimeter. And between us, down at Luscombe Bowl, they had a concert going on. And at the concert was Cold Joy and Little Paddy.
Right, yeah.
Right, and they were down there performing while we were firing over their heads to fire in support of Delta Company. I suppose I would go back just slightly. One thing had just come to mind. Delta Company consisted of 3 platoons: 10 platoon, 11 platoon, and 12 platoon. 10 platoon was the first platoon that was hit, and their platoon commander, Gordon Sharp, who was a national serviceman, was killed early in the piece, and his platoon sergeant, which is Bob Buick, he took charge of that platoon. 11 platoon, the platoon commander was Dave Sabin, and I must admit I forget the one for 12 platoon, right? But I do have a report from Major Smith's report. At the end of it, he said, if you can put down the success of Long Tan, what would you put it down to? And he said, in one word, artillery.
Yeah.
And also the platoon commander of 12 platoon said exactly the same thing. And in fact, what he was relating at one stage is where they were, they could see the VC forming up in lines to come through and charge them. And every time they'd form up, they'd hear the guns go off and then see the rounds land. The row of troops would disappear. And then when it all cleared, they'd form up again, and then another lot of rounds, and so on and so on. And this happened, as I say, just about all the way through the battle. And at no stage was anyone in Delta Company overrun.
No.
But one of the reasons I mentioned that is I do have another presentation which Dave Sabin prepared, and in that, pardon me, in the summary towards the end, apparently he's got a report there that some Chinese general in 2006 was queried on the Battle of Long Tan. Now remember what I said Chinese.
Yeah.
Right. And he said at that conference where he was that on the night of Long Tan, they lost 2,500 killed or amputees during the Battle of Long Tan. The official body count, or the official killed body count for Delta Company 6 is only about 250.
Yeah. They found it was 245. They found 245 the next day when they were going through, but you reckon it could have been up? Well, they said there could have been up to upwards of 2,000 Vietnamese troops. That one 100 blocks were against.
There was actually about 3,500 VC and NVA troops in the area involved in the whole battle. Right? I mean, there were only a few that were in the man-to-man contact type of thing, but they were all involved. And this is what we were saying before, and the importance of the day before with the mortaring is what we believe is that both of those events should have happened simultaneously. But somewhere along the line, one half got the story, the other half didn't. So that's why one half changed, the other half didn't, and that's why there was one action one day and then the other action the next day, even though it was an accidental contact that Delta Company had with the VC, but they were coming through to the task force. So we believe that if they both had been together, who knows what the final result would have been.
And they were coming
Because,
together.
yeah, we would have been busy firing on the counter battery. We would have had to take people away from that to help support Delta. So we would have had to spread our fire, which would have, really placed us in a very dangerous circumstances.
Yeah. Wow, that's incredible. We lost 18. I think I've said that before. 18 soldiers from Delta Company. 17 then and later on, wasn't it?
No. There was 17 from Delta Company, and one guy from Sricap. He was right. one of the APC drivers, I think. I'm not 100% sure, but he was Lance Corporal Clements, I think his name was.
Yeah. Unbelievable. And the fact that, what's danger close? What with a 105, was it minimum distance from troops would have been 200 metres or something, mate?
Sorry, I laughed, mate. Normally, it would be 100 to 200 metres, yes. Danger close, danger close is supposed to be into about 50 metres, right? But Captain Murray Stanley was the New Zealand FO officer.
Yes.
His act was Bombardier Willie Walker. He sent Willie Walker back 50 metres behind him. He was using himself as the aiming point for the danger close missions. And he was relaying the information back to Willie, and he was passing that through back to the regiment. All right, so that gives you an idea of what danger close is. Now, as I said, danger close is what we call clino laying, and it's like having a spirit level on the side of your gun. And everything is done when that bubble is exactly central. So therefore it's exactly on. All right, so it takes a lot of the guesswork out of a person's eyesight, because they look at the bubble in the clinometer or spirit level, if I could use it, layman's terms.
Wow, mate, the fact that you and at night time, John, like to get the artillery so accurate at night time, just absolutely incredible. And let's not forget the battery of Americans that were with you with the big guns, mate, the 155s. Were they targeting danger close, or were they doing the far out stuff?
No, they were basically doing the far out stuff. The danger close, 105, from what I heard, and yes, it was 105 battery, so I'm not boasting because I was 105, but it's what I've heard, is that a lot of the danger close was actually fired by 105 because they'd been in country the most. 103, because they were like the supporting units, that was still firing close, and they were firing danger close, but they were also firing back a bit, from what I've heard. I won't say that's correct. It's only just what I have heard from around the traps, and I did serve through until 1987. And I've read lots of reports and things. That
night, mate, when you would have been still firing till 3 a.m. Did you see the 2 helicopters go out to do a resup? If anyone's seen the movie, 6RAR was out of ammo. Everyone, Delta Company was out of ammo. 2 helicopters went out and basically tipped ammo out to them. They were in deep shit, mate. They were in deep shit.
If I may, Paul, just a couple of stories on that. The 2 helicopter pilots, and for the life of me, I can't think of their names at the moment, but they were ordered not to go because of the weather.
Yeah.
They refused. They said, "No, I'm not taking it. We're going." And I think they were actually charged and went to court, but I don't think it actually came to anything that I'm aware of. But that's how serious it was. When they went out and they dropped the ammo, and remembering that once again the monsoon storms were on, they dropped the ammunition, and virtually, as they say, Jack Herby was the Delta Company CSM. They virtually dropped the ammunition on his lap.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
that's how exact they were.
Incredible. And that's what Aussies do when their mates are in trouble. They said, we're going, whether you like it or not. They knew the boys were in trouble, and they put the numbers in the air and they got the ammo through to them. Do you remember any casualties coming back into the base, or you were just too occupied with on the gun?
No, we were on the far boundary, right? And I can't remember the exact layout, but I think we were on the western boundary. All this happened out from the eastern boundary. All the headquarters and that were in the centre.
Yeah.
Right. And of course, a lot of the wounded and that, they were taken straight to Vung Tau and other places. See, another thing that people may not be aware of, I mean, they know that we had the Ostfield Hospital of Vung Tau. But just because we had the Ostfield Hospital of Vung Tau does not necessarily mean that all the Australian casualties went to that hospital. They would know from the reports that are coming in where people are going from all over the place. So when they got a contact like Long Tan, they would then go to their map and find out the locations of hospitals, aid posts, etc., that were the least busy. And that's where they would send the people to.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
So just because we had the hospital wasn't directed directly to us. And I mean, just an aside from that, I went back in 1969, but I was actually medevaced home with a back injury. But I was actually in one hospital at one stage when I think it was Charlie Company 5 RAR was caught in a mine incident, and they were bringing them into Vung Tau, into the Ostfield Hospital. And of course, typical all the patients, every time you hear choppers straight to the windows to see what's going on.
Yeah,
and the nurses and doctors just kept on chasing us back. No, get away, get away. Yeah, they didn't want us to see what was going on.
Wow, did you see a lot of action on your second tour, mate, or was the first one where a lot of the stuff happened for you?
Well, the second tour, I went over on the advance party, and we in fact left here on Australia Day, 26th of January 1969. All dressed in our polyester trousers and white shirts. A plane load of us went into Singapore, landed there, all marched off the plane into the cafeteria type of thing, had breakfast, and then back on the plane again. I did go out on a couple of operations. I was a gun sergeant of Bravo Gun prior to going over on the second tour. But at the last minute, our transport sergeant was his wife put in a ministerial, and he was transferred out. So Major Thompson, who was our BC at the time, he called me and he said, "Right," he said, "we want you as a transport sergeant." I said, "Well, that's okay. I'm happy with that." So I was transport sergeant before the new one came in. Oh, sorry, I was transport bombardier. Then I went on the guns. But I said, "No, that's okay. I know transport." And I said, "Oh, by the way, you're going over on the advance party in 2 weeks' time." So, and so I went out on a couple of operations because gun sergeant, he had a couple of medical problems, so there were things that he couldn't go out on. So I went in his place, and it was actually on one of the fire support bases. I think it was fire support base Bruiser, where I suffered the back problem, and I was sent back to Nui Dat. Went down to the Osfield Hospital, did a couple of weeks there, went back to the task force area, and then about a month later ended up in hospital again. And then when he had that contact and people from the mine incident come in, they had to clear the hospital. So they said, right, you'll be medevac home. So I come home.
Yeah, okay.
Thankfully and happily.
Yeah, no, it's good. You had a mate. Another quick story, mate. The Battle of Coral, I think, was during the Tet Offensive, was it, in 68? You had a mate
Yes,
where
it was.
in artillery, their gun was overrun, and they had to. I'll let you tell the story, mate.
Yeah, okay. Well, once again, I've kind of had this second hand, but I did actually have it from the gun sergeant involved. The gun sergeant involved was Maxie Franklin. And it was through the Battle of Coral, and what happened was 102 battery was deployed into the area, and was deployed late in the afternoon, around about 4 o'clock. And so once again, they weren't really developed. But where they were actually dropped on the escape route from the BC coming back from Saigon. And of course they hit that there. They hit that, and I think it was Foxtrot gun, and it would have been one of the guns on the far side. It got overrun. Now, normally when a gun gets overrun, it's a job of the gun detachment to make the gun or to disable the gun. But everything happened so quickly, the Max really couldn't disable the gun. But what he did do, he did remove the firing mechanism from the gun so it couldn't be fired. So they removed that, the gun detachment went back, and they went back into the rear area in the battery. And another gun sergeant, Johnny Stevens, he apparently was detailed or something. I don't know the complete story, but he was involved and organised a group to go in and take the gun back again, which he did, and he in fact got an MM for that. People talked to him after that, what did you do to you and that? He said, I didn't do anything. I don't know why I got it.
I'm sure you're probably being honest there, mate.
Yeah.
Take a gun back from the enemy, and you didn't do anything. I think he's been a bit modest there, but
yes, slightly.
Yeah, just goes to show the Arty boys, mate. It was a dangerous job, and you're on the front line. That's why you're one of the arms corps: infantry, artillery, armoured, and engineers. Every one of the 4 arms corps.
Yeah,
and that's the reason they're called the arms corps. They're the boys up the front, getting the job done. Hey, Johnny might do another little short video, and then there's something special in this video that I want to talk about when we come back and before we wrap up, mate.
Okay,
so
mate.
I'll just hang in there, guys. I've got a little video coming up here, and it's a song everyone will know, and it was almost the national anthem of the Australian Army. Johnny, you'll know this one when I bring it on. Share the screen. Righto, sit back and enjoy this, everyone. There's some real footage and from the movie. That's real.
Mum and Dad and Denny saw the passing out parade, Puckapunnu. It was a long march from cadets, and the 6th Battalion was the next to tour. It was me who drew the card. We did Canungra and Shoalwater before we left, and In Townsville, line the footpaths as we march down to the quay. This clipping from the paper shows us young and strong and clean. There's me in me slouch hat with me SLR and greens. God help me, I was only 19. From Funtown, Pride and Chinooks to the dust at Newey Dat, I'd been in and out of choppers now for months. And we made our tents a home, BB and pin-ups on the lockers, and an Asian orange sunset through the scrub. And can you tell me, doctor, why I still can't get to sleep? Night time's just a jungle dart and a barking M16. What's this rash that comes and goes? Can you tell me what it means? God help me, I was only 19. On a 4-week operation, when each step could mean your last one on 2 legs. It was a war within yourself, but you wouldn't let your mates down till they had you dusted off. So you close your eyes and you thought about something else. And then someone yelled out, "Contact front!" Close behind me swore. We hooked in there for hours. God almighty roar. Frankie kicked a mine the day that mankind kicked the moon. God help me, he was going home in June. And I can still see Frankie drinking tinnies in the Grand Hotel on a 36-hour wreck leave in Funtown. And I can still hear Frankie lying screaming in the jungle till the morphine came and killed bloody Row. And the ANZAC legends didn't mention Martin, blood and tears, and the stories my father told me never seemed quite real. I caught some pieces in my back that I didn't even feel. God help me, I was only 19. And can you tell me, doctor, why I still can't get to sleep? Why the Channel 7 chopper chills me to my feet? What's this rash? It comes and goes. Can you tell me what it means? God help me, I was only 19.
Yes, sir. Look at the ages, everyone. 21, 20, 22. Walking up there. Rightio. Yeah. What do you think of that one, Johnny?
It's a great song, that.
It's a great song, isn't it? I know everyone in the army used to. That was like our national anthem when.
Yeah.
And that I was only 19. Just an incredible song. And one thing I wanted people to realise there, Delta Company 6RAR were awarded the US Presidential Citation after that battle, everyone. And the Delta Company, the boys in Delta Company still wear that citation to this day. Even the young guys that go to that unit, they still wear that citation. And things haven't changed. It took the Australian government 45 years to recognise what they did during the Battle of Long Tan, where the Americans recognised it pretty well straight away, mate. So makes you wonder, doesn't it, about our government sometimes?
If I may, and I might be sticking my neck out here, but a couple of stories that I heard, and apparently during the Vietnam War, there was apparently a quota system, and they limited the number of awards that could be awarded, but also I believe that at that particular time there was a directive that no one outside of the training team would have been presented with a Victoria Cross. And that's why, as you know, there were no Victoria Crosses awarded to the training team. To anyone outside the training team, except very recently the Private Norden got one, and he was the first person outside of the training team to get a VC from Vietnam. And that was the reason why Major Harry Smith, later Colonel Harry Smith, was fighting so hard for recognition of his troops that were there. He was on the ground with them. He knew how hard they had fought, and I believe that he also knew all about the quota system, etc. So he fought tooth and nail to have the right people awarded the right awards. Obviously, as a result of that, he himself got an upgraded reward. All the officers in that, I believe, got the Medal of Gallantry from it. But once again, that was something that wasn't done for 40-odd years.
No, it makes you wonder. The 4 Victoria Crosses everyone went to, crusty old warrant officers from the Australian Army training team over there before Johnny and all them got over there. Simpson, Badco, Wheatley, and Keith Payne. Keith Payne's still alive.
Yeah, Keith Payne is still alive, but just I'll correct you on one thing. Badco, he wasn't a crusty old warrant officer. He was, in fact, a major.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, he was a major, and I won't tell you the complete story, but I'll tell you part of the story. Apparently, when he first graduated from Duntroon, he was posted to artillery, and he served time in artillery. And in fact, I think towards the end of the time in artillery, he was 107 battery. But due to circumstances that he applied for a corps transfer and was transferred to the infantry. And then when he got awarded the VC, I believe that the infantry corps still didn't class him as one of theirs because he did not graduate as an infantry officer, and he transferred later.
Is that right? Wow.
Well, as I say, it's a story. True or not, it's not up to me to say, but I think it's interesting that, and I do know one of the chaps that I do know from artillery actually did serve as Peter Badco's driver when he was with 107. So that's why I knew that he was with 107 towards the end of his time in artillery.
Oh, I didn't realise he was an officer, mate. I thought they were all warrant officers, but I need to
No.
start my thing again. But mate,
And if I made one other, Ray Simpson, he, if my memory served me correctly, he wasn't even in the army. And he went over there and said, "I'm here to fight," and he ended up in the training team and ended up winning a VC. He was I think he was a World War II guy, and had fought in Malaya and Korea, and
yeah, just a tough man, mate. Absolutely
and of course,
tough man.
when it come about, he said, "I got to get in there. I belong there, not here."
Yeah. Were the artillery, were you guys awarded anything besides your normal Vietnam medals and that, mate? Did you receive any?
Yeah, we got we got two unit citations. We got the U.S. Meritorious Unit Citation called the MUC, and the South Vietnamese Cross of Gallantry with Palm. Now, the South Vietnamese Cross of Gallantry, I believe now is awarded to just about everyone who served in Vietnam. Yeah. But at that time, it was the reason we got it was 173rd Airborne was presented with the South Vietnamese Cross of Gallantry by the Vietnamese government, or the South Vietnamese government. And because we were with them at the time, we ended up being eligible for it. But once again, it took years. I think it was around about, it was in the year 2000, it was in this century that we actually got the South Vietnamese Cross of Gallantry. The U.S. Meritorious Unit Commendation, we got awarded to us, and it was in fact the 1 battalion group. Because we were with them, we got it. And that was presented on a parade in 1991. And 102 Battery has also been presented now with a unit citation, and 104 Battery for Coral and Balmoral. But I'm not 100% sure just what those citations are, but they are the Australian equivalents to what they would be entitled to anyway.
Yeah. The artillery boys, we're in the thick of it over there, mate. There is no doubt about that. And if you look at Ukraine, everyone, you just see how important artillery is, John, still to this day, mate. Still a very important thing on the battlefield. And it's bloody, I'll tell you what, those infantry boys, they should have been buying you a lot of beers after that. And even the infantry boys said, without you guys, we could have lost that whole company that day.
Yep. Just a couple of side ones. Talk about buying beers and that. There was one operation we did, Operation Silver City, which was with 173rd. And we, in fact, were involved firing in support of 2 American battalions, the 1st and 2nd 503rd, and we rescued them. And in fact, a mate of mine, Splinter Galbraith, he was in the command post at the time, and he was telling us that all he could hear from the Americans was keep going, keep them coming, keep them coming. And at the end of it, they said that's the finest shooting that they had ever seen. And both those 2 battalion commanders came down to the battery lines in Benoit and did, in fact, buy us beers quite often.
Oh, mate, that's doing Australia proud, mate. And that's why, to this day, the Americans, they know what the Aussies are like. They know how we fight. They know we're good soldiers. They know we're on the money. And it's stories like that, mate. We need to hear more of that. I didn't know that. Here's an Aussie battery saving 2 American battalions' asses in Vietnam.
The American batteries were firing as well. We were just part of the artillery support, right?
Yeah, fantastic, mate. Hey, just back onto that video I did there. Ken and I went out when we come and saw you in December last year. We went out to the Mount Gravatt Cemetery where our grandfather is buried in the ANZAC part of the Mount Gravatt Cemetery. And there's two Afghanistan lads there buried right near our grandfather, mate. Captain Bryce Duffy and Corporal Milosevic, who were both killed in green on blue and Afghanistan. And 3 of those Vietnam guys that we just saw their names come up, I forget which ones now. There's 3 long tan veterans buried right near our grandfather. I don't know if you knew that or not. And when I was looking for the Afghanistan boys, and I went, oh, long tan. I'm pretty sure there was 3. Ken's in the chat room. I think it was 3, Ken, that are buried near. So our granddad's in good hands, mate. He's got a couple of Afghanistan veterans there with him, and 3 of the boys from Long Tan buried beside him, mate, at Mount Gravatt there.
Oh, he's obviously still acting as the RSM with the young soldiers.
Yeah, exactly. They all calling him sir, or Warrant Officer Handlebars. And the other guy that we saw a picture of him there, everyone, Corporal Buddy Lee, who was in Delta Company, Indigenous guy. He was when Ken was in 9RQR as a machine gunner, John. Buddy Lee was his instructor when he was going through his Army Reserve infantry training. And he said Buddy Lee was a very, very well-respected man. And he was just a wealth of knowledge. So he's actually, Buddy Lee, actually trained Ken when he was in the Army Reserve, which is something Ken's very proud of.
When I got promoted to O1, my posting on promotion was to RSM 1 training group at Waco. And in fact, one of my corporal instructors there was Corporal Buddy Lee.
Oh, wow.
Wow. He was a thorough gentleman.
Yeah.
And in fact, he was, you would have known him from Herby Bay as well, because he was living up at Herby Bay. He was a member of the Herby Bay RSL.
Oh, spewing, mate. I don't think. Well, that's probably why he was training Ken. I never met him, but Ken certainly has. He trained Ken, but Anyway, it's getting on, mate. Anything else you want to say, John? But it's been an incredible night, and there's a lot of people in here saying you need to write a book or do an audio book with the amount of knowledge that's up in your head. Your memory is still on point, mate.
I'm currently, as you know, involved with writing up a book with 8 volumes called The Family of the Rogers, or The Book of Rogers.
It's amazing.
Thank you very much for the thoughts. But
you're a busy man, and just finally before we go, Johnny, is ANZAC Day on Saturday morning. What's ANZAC Day mean to you, and what do you got in store for ANZAC Day, mate? Are you going to march? Are you going to go to the dawn service? And where are you going to the Caboolture one? I'm not sure what you're doing.
No, I'm afraid because of my physical condition, it's very hard for me to go anywhere. I can't stand for long. I've got to sit down. But also I had 10 years or 11 years as the president of the Pine Rivers RSL sub-branch, which during that period, obviously, I did the dawn service and main service there, plus also school presentations. Then later in 2008, I was appointed as the chairman of the ANZAC Day Dawn Service Commemorative Committee, or Combined Committee, organising the main dawn service in ANZAC Square in Brisbane. And I did that for 10 years. The last one there was, in fact, for the centenary in 2015. So it was something like about 20 years that, and of course, since I'm in the Army, attending all the services and that. And as I say, I've had thyroid cancer and prostate cancer. I've got the back problem, which I've got Medvax home with. It still gives me hell. So really it's hard for me to get around. I do use a wheelie walker to help at times. I would really love to go to these places, but I think discretion the better part of Bella and my physical condition. And in fact, I was kind of attending them up until the time of COVID. And with COVID, when they started the driveway dawn services and that, I did those here. And basically since then, I stay at home. I have a flagpole up, which I bring the flag down at 4 a.m., leave the flag down until midday, and then put it up. I have a rum at 5:30 in the morning, and I have a scotch for the boys when I put the flag up at midday as part of my ANZAC tradition now.
Good on you, mate. And Mark Lavelle, a good friend of mine. Thanks, John, for your huge contribution to this great land, mate. Really enjoyed your story. And I know there's been a lot of positive comments in there, mate. And hopefully some of your mates from I might even put this live feed up on the artillery page so they can sit back and think. Final question, were you a grumpy RSM? Because I knew an artillery, I'll tell you a funny story. I was a young corporal at 103 Signal Squadron in Townsville, and I was the duty NCO, and they said, go down to Fourfield Regiment, and my SSM said, go down and give this letter to the RSM of Fourfield, Warrant Officer Jobson, who I think you know. He was the crankiest man in the world.
So, I knew Chris Jobson as a Lance Bombardier in 16 AD Regiment at Woodside. When I was at the School of Artillery in Devwing as a WO2, Chris was there as a sergeant gun instructor in RTW. I know he ended up as the RSM Fourfield, and I think he also ended up as RSM of 3 Brigade in Townsville.
Yeah.
And he also ended up as the ceremonial RSM of the Army.
Yes, he did. He did. Yep. And last I heard of him, he was taking people through the Canberra War Memorial on tours. I'm pretty sure I heard someone say that. But he was a grumpy.
There were quite a few of the guys, ex-arty guys that I know of that were that lived in Canberra, and they were volunteering their time at the War Memorial to act as guides and that.
Yeah, I think Jobson.
He would have been one of them. Yeah.
Yeah. I went to give him the letter, and as I got to his office up at Fourfield, he's on the phone. So you don't dare interrupt an RSM when he's on the phone. So I waited outside his office, and then he hung the phone up, and then I walked up to his door, and I knocked on his door, but I made the fatal mistake of putting my foot up onto his step when I knocked on the door. And he looked up and goes, did I invite you into my office? I said, no, sir. He goes, why's your foot in my office then? That was my experience with Chris Jobson. He was a cranky man, and he thought, there's this, because I had my beret on, my SIGS badge, he thought, Phil Cook's come up to bloody speak to me. I'll give this young fella a bit of a hard time. But, yeah, that was my experience with Chris Jobson, mate. I knocked on his door and he gave me a curve.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, all right, everyone. I hope you've enjoyed the night. It's been a special one, especially Mary coming on. Unbelievable. And, John, I'm so glad you got to meet Mary, Phil Norris's daughter.
Very nice young lady.
Very, very special moment, that one, and a bit emotional for us all, but it was special. Thanks for tuning in tonight, everyone. Enjoy your ANZAC Day. Best day of the year for me. Best day of the year. Doesn't matter what you do, everyone. Just spare a thought for the ANZACs storming ashore on the 25th of April, 1915. Incredible men, John. And, mate, to you, myself and Ken, we're bloody proud to call you our cousin, mate. After what you've done for this country, we're bloody proud of you, mate. And I know everyone in the chat room is too. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, one and all.
All right, mate. good night, everyone, and I'll tune in and we'll see you again on Sunday morning for a live feed, and we'll talk about what you did on ANZAC Day. All right, good night, everyone. Thank you.
Good night, mate.
Thanks, Johnny.